Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session we will be discussing from the 25th verse of the 12th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This will be discussed in two parts. So in this session we will discuss part 1. The verse, 25th verse is as follows. Dhritya Bali Sama Krishne Prahrada Iva Sadgraha Ahartaisho Ashwamedhanam Vruddhanam Paryupasakaha. The meaning of this verse is, this child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many Ashwamedha sacrifices, and a follower of the old and experienced men. 4 different qualities are glorified about Parikshit by the Brahmanas while foretelling about the greatness of the child when he grows up. So, the first comparison is made that this child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience. So, the history of Bali Maharaj is described again in the Bhagavatam in detail, great detail, in the 8th canto, in connection with the pastime of Lord Vamandev. So, Srila Prabhupada says, one of the 12 authorities, Bali Maharaj is one of the 12 authorities in devotional service of the Lord, Mahajana, Dwadash Mahajana. Bali Maharaj is a great authority in devotional service because he sacrificed everything to please the Supreme Lord and relinquished the connection of his so-called spiritual master who obstructed him on the path of risking everything for the service of the Supreme Lord. Now, the brief history of Bali Maharaj, because the comparison is made, how great was Bali Maharaj in being very, very patient, and that's how this Parikshit also will be very patient. So, the description is that the Supreme Lord appeared as Vamandev, as a son of Aditi and Kashyapa, and he particularly came on the request of Aditi. Vamandev wanted to satisfy Aditi's desire that Aditi's sons, headed by Indra, who had lost their kingdom to Bali Maharaj, they get back their kingdom. So Vamandev came to actually restore Indra's kingdom by taking it away in a way of tricking Bali Maharaj. And Vamandev took away from Bali Maharaj by trickery and gave it to Indra. So what was Bali's reaction to all this? That is very nicely described here. So Vamandev, as soon as he appeared, he disguised himself as a small brahmachari boy and visited the sacrificial arena where Bali Maharaj was performing sacrifices. Now, Vamandev appeared in the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj with his transcendently effulgent form. Because he is Supreme Lord, his form is full of transcendental effulgence called Brahma Jyoti. So, normally the Lord in the material world will not display his Brahma Jyoti. Then nobody will be able to see him. So, he partially displayed his transcendental effulgence, and all the priests in that sacrificial arena, they stood up from their seats and offered all respects and prayers to this brahmachari. Of course, they didn't know it was Vamandev. So they thought some very, very, very austere brahmachari, some great personality. We do not know who he is. He has appeared with this effulgence, which is very, very dazzling. And they stood up in respect and offered prayers to him. Now, so Vamandev was received very respectfully by Bali Maharaj as a brahmachari boy, and Bali immediately washed the feet of this brahmachari, who is Lord himself as Vamandev, and sprinkled that water that washed the feet of the brahmachari on his head. And then Bali Maharaj inquired Vamandev that you may ask me for some dana. Either you may ask for some money or jewels or anything else you might desire, because I am the emperor of the world. So you may ask me anything that you desire. Now, Vamandev praised Bali Maharaj, and Vamandev actually asked Bali Maharaj that I'll be satisfied with just 3 paces of land measured by my footprint. A small brahmachari boy, how much will his footprint be? So Bali Maharaj thought, this brahmachari, even though he is so bright and effulgent and very, very austere, he doesn't have sufficient experience what to ask. So Bali Maharaj said, I can give you something much more than that. And he offered to give more. But Vamandev described to Bali Maharaj that one should be satisfied with the minimum necessities. Otherwise, there is no end to one's desire for possessing more and more and more. So then Bali Maharaj, hearing this enlightening words from this brahmachari, he became very impressed and said, oh, you are very, very learned and even realized. Okay, according to your desire, whatever you want, I am ready to give you, offer you in charity. I'll give you 3 steps of land measured by your footprint. So then when he was about to accent to give, agree to give, immediately Shukracharya stopped him. Stop. My dear king, please stop. So Bali Maharaj inquired, what is the matter? So then Shukracharya said, you do not know who this brahmachari boy is. He is actually Vishnu disguised as a brahmachari boy. He has come here on behalf of the Devatas, our enemies, and he has come to take away your entire kingdom. On the plea of taking 3 steps of land in charity, he is going to take away your entire kingdom. So beware, don't give what he is asking for in charity, because he has come to cheat you. So then Bali Maharaj heard Shukracharya, and he considered that Bali Maharaj thought it is the duty of a householder to maintain the principles of religion, and he thought it improper to withdraw his promise to the brahmachari, even if this brahmachari is Vishnu, and even if he is going to take away everything I possess, still I don't want to go back on my promise, because lying is a sinful activity. So I should not go back on my promise, and therefore I want to give this brahmachari whatever I have promised, 3 steps of land. So Bali Maharaj finally, against the instruction of his guru Shukracharya, he decided to nevertheless give away 3 steps of land as Vamandev in the form of that brahmachari had asked in charity. So then what did Vamandev do? He immediately, after getting that assent of Bali Maharaj, Vamandev expanded himself into a universal body. Because he's the Supreme Lord. He's got a form called the universal form. So he displayed that universal form of his. Means as big as the whole universe. And Bali Maharaj could see that the Lord is all pervading and everything resting in his body. And then Bali Maharaj could also see that this gigantic form the brahmachari is displaying is actually the form of Lord Vishnu, because Vishnu's mark of Srivatsa and his Kaustuba jewel and his crown and his ornaments and flower garland, everything that was decorating his body, Bali Maharaj could clearly see. So what did Vamandev do after expanding himself into a universal body? He covered the entire surface of the world by extending his body and covered the entire sky. So with one step, he covered the earth and all the lower planets completely. And then with his second footstep, he covered the entire upper planetary system. And there was no vacant place where he could place his third footstep. Then what happened? The Devatas headed by Brahma, they certainly were very much attracted by the wonderful form of the Lord and his wonderful pastime of covering everything in the universe by just 2 footsteps. So Brahma, accompanied by great sages, offered humble prayers to worship the Supreme Lord. They could recognize here is the Supreme Lord, and he has appeared for the sake of favoring Indra. So then when Bali Maharaj was deprived of all his possessions, then all the associates of Bali Maharaj became angry at this brahmachari boy who cheated Bali, and they wanted to attack this brahmachari boy who is now in this form, universal form. And they attempted, but immediately Vishnu's associates defeated all the associates of Bali Maharaj and sent them to the lower planets. And then Bali Maharaj was arrested by the ropes of Varuna by Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. But when Lord Vishnu said to Bali Maharaj, "You have not fulfilled your promise to give me 3 steps of land. Where do I place my third step?" So then Bali Maharaj, he explained to Lord Vamana, Lord Vishnu, that I have given away whatever is my possession, but I am still there. So I will give my head in charity as the place for Lord Vishnu's third step. Now that was very, very pleasing to Lord Vishnu. Look at the patience of Bali Maharaj. He is completely bereft of all his possessions. He has been all his possessions have been taken away, and he is nothing, and still he is offering his own self, Atma Nivedanam. Of course, Bali Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord performed this pastime to glorify Bali Maharaj and show to the whole world that my devotees are so very dedicated to my seva that they are willing to give up everything just to please me, to satisfy me, to serve me. In this way, Bali Maharaj proved to be very, very successful in his conduct as giving charity. So his patience was tested by Lord Vamandev and he became successful. So similarly, Parikshit also will be very, very patient. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.